Hey, everybody, and welcome to Lot C2. I'm Mike.
And I'm Alex.
And today we are going to talk about muscle cars. More specifically, the first generation of muscle cars. Alex and I threw this idea around a bit, and we're like, oh, we could do a muscle car episode. And with the three generations of muscle cars, the original, the 80s, 90s revival, and then the modern era. But we quickly realized that putting all three of those together would lead to a 4.5 hour long episode, so we decided to break each generation up. And today we'll be covering the first generation. But first, Alex, how are you? How's the car?
Oh, I'm pretty good. The car's been, we're doing some stuff with the car. Both of us kind of have some updates on our personal cars. Me personally, I'm currently undergoing a retune through JST, which if you're in the, I don't know what else they tune, but if you're in the ST and RS community for sure, JST is, I guess I could say the man. I forget his name's Justin something, but I've been very impressed so far.
JST.
It's just a tune.
And he's just Justin.
Indeed he is. But so I elected to, we should make this a pop quiz question. What kind of tune is Alex getting on his Focus?
Oh, yeah.
So
where they have to guess the
I'm getting a
spark.
Oh god, I don't even know that.
Yeah, I don't even, yeah.
I mean, I know what my plugs are gapped to, but I don't know like what he's doing with the spark and everything.
Right.
But anyway, so JST has a few different options. I elected to go with the 93 and E30 tune, which they call the E30 race gas. I mean, I don't know. That sounds a lot cooler than E30, so I guess I'll say that I'm tuned on race gas.
Huh. That's one way to look at it.
But not yet.
Yeah, you're testing out the 93 tune right now, aren't you?
Yep, we are. So what he does is you get the access port married to your car, and then you email back and forth, and he tweaks the tune based on the data logs that you take of your car doing, in my case, third gear pulls. So I'm on my third revision right now, and the car feels completely different. It feels so much better. It's not only is it quicker, obviously, but it feels smoother, like the transitions in between the gears. And it just feels like it's happier when it's running.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It feels like there's less computer electronics getting in the way. It almost feels more like a analog car, I guess.
It feels a lot more like, I don't know, because like it was tuned when I bought it, but I don't know, it just felt, I don't know if resistant is the right word to describe it, but it just feels like smoother now, I guess.
Yeah. What you do, right. Well, that's the big thing, especially with first tunes, is you'll notice your throttle response becomes almost immediate, like a carbureted car.
In first gear especially, like first gear, I don't know what it is, but it just wants to go. Like you barely give it any gas and it's like trying to go.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because I have no idea. I've never owned a turbo car, but I wonder if they can do something in the tune to just get the turbo to spool up like instantly or something.
Well, I know they do like obviously I don't think you'd be able to get into full boost in first gear.
Right, it's too quick.
I know they do like boost by gear, but I'm not totally positive on how they do that, how they set that up yet.
You should set it so there's like no boost in sixth, so you don't even have to worry.
I mean, yeah, that's
because
that would be nice, but
yeah, but then you want to be, you want to be able to pass people in sixth.
No, you don't want to pass people in sixth. That's how you blow your shit up. You got to downshift to fourth.
Yeah, well, I do that just because it's fun, but
I mean, you can like if you're, I mean, you don't want to like floor it in sixth. If you're just like very lightly on the gas, I guess you could pass someone in sixth, but I don't want to take that chance.
Right. So boost by gear. So by the time you reach fifth gear, have them, have you at like 45 pounds. And then 6th, it'll be nothing.
45 pounds of boost on my stock turbo. Wonder how many pulls that would last.
Half. Who was that guy?
But what a half pull it would be.
Who was that guy? Oh, that was, I can't remember his name now. The guy with the,
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about the guy with the Subaru, right?
No, he had the, what was it, a Cruise? Or he had the Sonic?
Oh, Carl.
Carl, yeah, with the Sonic. He was on like 30-something pounds, right?
I think he was on 29 or 30.
29, right. Because I remember that was, when we first heard that, we were like, we couldn't believe it. But here you are, running like 24 pounds or whatever.
Yeah, 24. Apparently that's what my stock turbo like maxes out at, so I don't know. I'm a little sketched, but boy does it pull good.
Yeah, for reference, I can only get about 13, 14 peak out of my stock blower.
Yeah, but 13 PSI on your blower is a lot different than 24 PSI on my turbo.
That's true. It's a small Eaton, but probably a little better than the quarter-sized turbo.
Right. Like, if I was big turbo pushing 24 pounds, I don't think my engine would last very long.
Do you actually know what breaks on those? Is it the rods, pistons themselves, or what goes first?
See, I haven't really heard of anything going because of power. I mean, a lot of it goes because of driver error, but if you're speaking about driver error, it would be pistons.
Gotcha. You mean like a money shift or something?
No, like people flooring it in 5th and 6th and getting low speed pre-ignition.
Oh, just straight, okay.
That's, from all accounts that I've heard, that is the number one killer of the Focus ST.
Yeah, I gotta actually look it up. I thought I've read every forum post that I could about my car, but I haven't seen someone mention like getting on it in 6th or getting into boost in 6th or whatever. Now I'm kind of worried. Got to check that out.
Well, the easy solution is just don't do it.
That's true. I mean, my 5th takes me, I believe my 5th takes me to my speed limiter, which is at 160 or whatever.
Well, and I mean, 5th should be the top speed gear anyway, but I'm talking about like if you're doing 30 in 6th gear and you decide to floor it. Like, it's different if you're doing a $120 and you decide to shift into 6th.
Oh yeah, I more meant the high speed.
Yeah,
because my gears are long enough to where I don't go into 6th really unless I'm doing over 50.
The general rule of thumb they say for my car is you don't want to get into boost below like 2,500 or 3,000 RPMs, and in 5th and 6th that goes up to 3,500 RPMs.
Because it's just loading the engine full of garbage.
Exactly. You're dumping a bunch of stuff into the engine, but you're lugging it.
Right, it has nowhere to go.
Exactly, and that's what
that makes sense.
That causes pre-ignition in the combustion chamber, and pretty soon your engine has a hole where it is not supposed to.
Yeah, right. Trying to think of engine holes that are supposed to have. You got the dipstick, oil filler cap,
The manifolds.
I guess under the intake manifold, but that should be on, but usually, unless it's a 3-valve Mustang with a blown heater pipe.
But
it comes off 6 times in a day.
But yeah, that's what's going on. I'm not sure when we're going to start tuning for E30. I mean, the guy at JST said that if the logs looked good from the polls with this revision, we could potentially move on to E30. But with how cold it is, I'm not sure that it's safe for me to be running E30 right now.
That's a good point. Temperature does impact that. Yeah, we're going through, here in the Midwest, it was 70 a few days ago, and now it's today it didn't hit 50, 52 or so.
Something like that.
But yeah, no, I can feel that because I had my car out right before we recorded, and dropped it in a second and hammered it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pulling harder, but it's a little cooler, so I'm getting less traction. So it's that interesting balance.
But that's about all that's going on with my car. I'll explain a little bit more about what E30 is and my reaction to it when I get tuned for the E30. But in the meantime, I really want to get my catch can and my traction bar on. I know I keep saying I got to do it, but there's no time. And I also have to pop off a panel by my dash and see if I can tuck the wire for my access port somewhere.
Oh yeah, wiring it's like a guilty pleasure I have, hiding wires, or at least making wires look nice, which is funny because if you saw my room, you would highly disagree with that. But
well, if you want to come out here and try to do that with my access port cable, you are welcome to do that.
Whenever you dip your wheels, and then we could maybe redo mine since it looks like they're peeling.
I'm probably going to dip my wheels at my mom's house because I think my landlords would bitch if I got a bunch of plasti dip everywhere.
And your mom will make you dinner. So it works out.
Exactly. We'll figure it out. It's not warm enough to do that yet.
Right. Soon.
Anyway, onto your car.
Yes. So my car. So last Monday I was on Walgreens website and checking every morning for vaccines because both my parents have had it and a few of my friends have had it, and I managed to find one hour and a half away. But it was a Johnson & Johnson too, so I'm like, well, I'll go out there, I'll get the shot, and then I'll be done. So it'll be fine. So on the way there, about halfway in, I get a check charging system warning in my car, and my battery light comes on. So I'm like, okay, that's annoying. The car was driving fine, and the light actually would come on and off every few minutes. It would come on, stay on for a few minutes, and then turn off for like a minute, and then come back on. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I got my shot, and then I went from the parking lot, I could see Advanced Auto. So I just brought it there, and they tested it. Of course, as soon as I popped the hood, it started raining, and the machine, the thing that they use to test your electrics, is a touchscreen, and the touchscreen wasn't working. So we stood out there in the rain for like 5 minutes while this lady struggled with putting in my VIN, because instead of me just being like, yeah, it's a 5.4, she has to put in my entire VIN.
Oh, Lord.
To get information on the car, because that's how that thing works.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my alternator was bad. Battery, starter were fine. Alternator is bad. I looked it up. Apparently, all 05 to 09 Mustangs, maybe 10s, not sure, the alternators are just not great from the factory. Now, I had 3 05 Mustangs before by Shelby, and I never had an alternator issue, not once. So I was kind of surprised to learn that it's actually an issue that plagues all those cars. But what the problem turned out to be was the alternator was overcharging the battery. And when I bought the car, I printed out all of the Carfax history. And in the past year, it's had 2 new batteries. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I figured the alternator was probably just overcharging them, and instead of fixing the alternator, they were just replacing the battery. Because maybe that's the only thing that went bad. Maybe the alternator did not throw a warning or something. But let me tell you, getting that thing out is a pain in the ass.
I bet it is. Is it like underneath?
Yeah, so from the top, you have to... Well, first things... I read a bunch of different write-ups, watched a few videos, and of course I end up doing it a slightly different way. I follow it pretty close, but slightly different way. From the top, you have to pull off the stock air box, because underneath the box is where the top 2 bolts are for the alternator. And then on the bottom, you have to take off the sway bar, or at least disconnect it and move it out of the way, which wasn't bad. But you have to pull it out from the bottom. And this thing is sitting right up against the driver's side, not cylinder head, but kind of like the engine block is sticking out underneath. And the engine block is right there. And also right there is the sway bar, which is moved out of the way. Also right there is the power steering line. And also right there is the frame of the car. I can move most of those. I can't move the frame of the car or the engine block.
No.
The biggest difficulty with the swap was taking the old one, was not disconnecting it, not unbolting it, none of that. It was literally removing it after it was unbolted, and then with the new one, getting it back up and in. Like, once it was threaded through the mess of garbage under there, it was a piece of cake. But getting the thing up and in was a pain in the ass. I didn't even realize I bent the shit out of one of the power steering, the tab, one of them. Luckily, I just used pliers and bent it back. But, like, man, it was a pain in the ass. I jacked the car up higher because I was trying to hold the alternator while I was holding back different lines to kind of get the thing threaded through. But the car was too close to the ground, and like by the time I would get the alternator threaded through half of it, like I couldn't hold it anymore because my arm was starting to like let go.
Oh.
You know, and you're on your back, and you're like the way I was holding it, it was like, actually my wrist still hurts. I just flexed it. But yeah, that was a complete pain in the ass. I put it in, and while the car was jacked up, I did the oil. The oil that came out was pretty black, which is there's nothing in it. I like straight up just kind of, as it was pouring out, just put my hand under it to make sure it was good. Because it's my first oil change, so I want to make sure everything's good. So I just let it pour onto my hand into the catch can, and it's fine. There's nothing in it, no shavings or anything. So that's good. But yeah, I put the new alternator in, and I'm kind of just waiting for the battery to go now. Because if it was, I put 800 miles on it, almost 1,000 miles before I swapped the alternator. So that's 1,000 miles of pretty hard driving with an alternator that's overcharging the battery. But I had the car out today for about half an hour, and so far so good. It rained when I was going to get the shot, so I brought the car straight home, got it up on jacks immediately, and it was just filthy. So I had to look at my car dirty for a week while I was waiting for the alternator to come in. So that was killing me. But I got lucky today and got it washed when the clouds came out, so it's clean. But yeah, alternator on 07, 09 GT500s is a pain in the ass. It's a 2-hour replacement, according to forum posts and things, and like the Ford service write-up. It took me 5 hours to get the stock one out, and then about 3.5 hours to get the new one in.
Isn't that always how it works?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Remember when we did the clutch master cylinder on my old car, and it was like a 1-hour job?
I sure do remember that.
Yeah, it was a 1-hour job according to the write-up, and it took us 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I bent the brake booster line thing. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. The car's been out for a week, so I haven't been really driving much. Except, rush hour, but I haven't really, I'm trying to think, I haven't really spotted anything good for the past few days, or bad, for that matter, as well. I don't know about you.
I saw a new Supra in Belvedere.
But that's a rare sight.
That was pretty cool.
The dealer by me has 8 of them just sitting right there.
Really?
I should get a picture. Yeah, they're all different colors sitting. Actually, not all different. They're red, yellow, and black and silver.
The one I saw was black.
Okay. Yeah, they're good-looking cars. I do like how they look.
I've come around to them.
Right. I wish they had a manual.
Yeah, I know. You're butthurt for your manuals.
Well, BMW crash-tested the Z4. It's certified in the U.S. with a manual transmission. So it's not like Toyota couldn't do it because BMW didn't test it.
Mm-hmm.
They chose not to include a manual for whatever reason
Oh,
in a car that makes, 400 horsepower, which in today's day is, for a performance car's average, is even a little bit low, maybe. But that's a different topic, which we have on the list for maybe a different time.
I know something else that I saw, and I wish I could have gotten a picture of it. I saw a Viper.
Yeah.
Like a 90s Viper.
Yeah, right? I think I see more old Vipers than I see new Vipers.
Definitely. This one was, I can't remember if it was black or navy. I know it had silver stripes. I want to say it was black. It was a good looking car.
They are good looking cars. Those are kind of first gen, and more high mileage second gen Vipers are kind of in the price range what I paid for the Shelby. I was thinking about it, but
Right. That's true.
I don't know. Forced induction out of the box, like the Shelby's going to be a lot faster.
Saw a few other Focus STs. I love running into other STs because we're like Subaru guys. We do the wave at each other.
Yeah. I just rev the piss out of it whenever I see another Mustang. And like 1 in 10 will rev back, which is probably 1 in 10 manual GT. Surprisingly, 50% of Mustang GTs sold are sold with a manual. I had no idea.
I'm trying to convince Sam's dad, if he ever gets a new one, to get one with a stick shift.
Yeah, they've improved the MT82 from what I've heard compared to the first, the S197s. I haven't heard great things about the Trans, but I also haven't heard bad things like I did when they first came out.
Yeah. But I think by and large, those are all the spots that I've seen this week. We're skipping the news because we're 26 minutes in already, and we want to get to our main topic, which is, and I almost feel like we might need to divide this one into 2 parts, depending on how long it goes.
Right.
But we are going to focus on the first muscle car era, starting about 1960-ish and going to, what do you think, maybe 72?
I think 73 seems to be, right when the oil crisis and emissions and everything started coming in.
All right, well, we'll go till about 73 or so then.
All right.
So, you kind of got your precursors. I remember my grandpa's dad owned Hudson's, and
Yes.
like Doc Hudson from Cars.
Right.
So, and he was telling me, because I talked to him and I was like, hey, we're doing this podcast. He talked about like how kids would come up and try to race him, and he'd like blow their doors off because this thing was not slow.
Yeah, the first ever car built for NASCAR.
Is that right?
Well, the Hudson Hornet at least. Well, yeah, it was the first car built by manufacturer for the public, specifically so they could race it in NASCAR, as opposed to a car that's already out that they put in NASCAR.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yep, Hudson Hornet.
Yeah,
Makes
they
sense
had
with cars and all that.
They had a Hornet and they had a Wasp, which I don't really know much about those. But like, the 50s, I think things were kind of bubbling under. I mean, you had your Corvette, obviously, and the T-Bird and whatnot.
Right. Everything was big and boaty and soft.
Now, here's another thing that we're going to have to establish. Do you consider the Corvette a muscle car?
No, you're not even the old ones, because it's kind of like in its own. Well, that's like I want to say it's in its own performance bracket, but that bracket kind of gets blurred in the 70s and 80s.
It does, and when you're in the 60s and stuff, I mean, what American cars were there that competed with the Corvette?
Right.
But
That's
yeah,
a thing. Straight line speed. That's a good point. Because straight line speed, I'm sure those Hemi cars were faster than the Corvette and things like that.
Well, yeah, but you got to keep in mind the Corvettes were all fiberglass, and they still had some of those big engines in there.
That's a good point, actually. I don't know my Corvette history that well. I know the 327 was popular. Corvette was a 6-cylinder, brand new for the first model year, first 2 model years. I can't remember.
I don't really know 50s Corvettes all that well. 50s Corvettes do not really interest me.
Right, that's the thing. You look at them, and it's kind of just like, I mean, you get it. When it came out, there was nothing like it. But looking at it, like those giant chrome front grills, they don't look bad by any means. But it's like, man, I would put that on nothing if I had one.
You get into the 63 split window, the Stingray, then I start to get interested.
Oh, yeah. Right when the C2 came out and the lines in the C2, I think, profile-wise, I think the C2 is the best-looking Corvette ever made.
I'm more of a C3 guy.
I like the early C3s, the C3 Stingrays, but when they, as soon as they dropped the Stingray and got, slow as shit, that's kind of...
Right.
Yeah, the early C3s, yes, like a 69 or, big block Corvette or whatever.
Yeah, they started putting the 454s in there and stuff. I think they put 454s in some of the Corvettes.
See, I'm not sure.
I know they put the 427 in it, obviously.
Yeah, 427 went into everything. They actually, speaking of that, the 427, before the SS 454 came out, you could order from Chevy an SS Chevelle with a 427, but it wasn't an SS 427. It was an SS with a 427 because technically the SS 457 or 427 didn't exist.
It's so funny how some of that stuff worked back then. That kind of goes into what we were talking about last week with the dealer options.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, that's good. Dealer options back then were huge. If you went to, a bigger Chevy dealer, then you can order yourself like a Copo Camaro or Copo Chevelle. And the same thing with Ford. You could get a 429 Torino or something if you knew somebody.
Well, and that's when I was talking to my grandpa, he's lived around like Rockford his whole life, and he would talk about going to Byron with his friends when it first opened up. And do you know who Mr. Norm is?
I was going to say
Mopar guy.
I know the name. I think I've seen it on YouTube or something.
He's big name in the Mopar world.
Yeah, I probably saw him in like Jay Leno's garage or something, maybe.
Well, he used to bring cars out to Byron. He had a dealership somewhere around Chicago. I don't know if it was in Chicago proper or not, but he would have like the souped up darts and things like that.
Yeah.
And this area has always been real Mopar heavy because, they got the Chrysler plant up in Belvedere.
All right, now I guess, what do you think of the first generation of muscle was the, not necessarily best, but the fastest, opinion-wise? Because I know it's all opinion because numbers weren't really, I guess, there was no internet back then, so it was harder to kind of compare.
I think, fastest, I think would be the newest generation.
Well, of the original, of the 60s and early 70s muscle cars, what do you think would be like the fastest down the quarter mile?
Like years-wise or like car brand-wise?
Specifically like car engine combination.
I mean, I'd probably say Hemi with a 4-speed.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it's the Hemi, like a Hemi Dart. They built something like 60 of those total, and those cars off the showroom floor would run an 11-second quarter, and then on slicks they'd run low 10s.
That's nuts, especially for at that time.
Yeah, I mean, we're just getting back to that with like the Hellcat and the Demon. Only like the Demon, really.
Well, and in a car like that, I feel like it would be, the newer cars, even the more performance-oriented ones like the Demon, are a bit cushier. Like, doing high tens in that thing, like, man.
Yeah, right. You better hope. You better hope those drum brakes are working.
Oh yeah, my grandpa was telling me that one of the cars that his buddies had, I think it was his friends had a lot of Pontiacs. I think the one that he was mentioning in this story was his buddy had a '66 GTO and it had disc brakes on the front, and that was pretty high tech back then, and
I mean, yeah,
they were
big
they
deal.
were doing like 80, and his friend goes, "Watch this," and just nails the brakes.
And the car does a nose stand. He looks over and says, "Yeah, it's got Brembos."
Oh my god. I don't even know what happened to that guy.
Yeah, actually, I don't even see him on Facebook anymore. Maybe he deleted his Facebook.
We're thinking of two different people. I know who you're talking about now.
We are. Okay. So I actually had this brought up to me in person, somebody who listens. He wants us to kind of like put people that we talk about in more of a setting. So the person I'm talking about,
We are talking about the same person. Yep, had a Saturn.
He had a Saturn. He brought it in for brakes, and they ended up, whoever was at this shop deserves an award because they talked him into getting Brembos for this Saturn.
No, he didn't actually get Brembos. We joked that he got Brembos because they charged him $900 for a brake job.
Oh, yeah. And we said, if you're spending that much, it better be Brembos. Yeah, so our joke was that he'd be going down the highway, hit the brakes, and the car would just flip over its nose. Yeah, it's got Brembos.
Well, it's like, I hate to detract from the point too much, but like, I think I bought my front brakes for like $150 for the pair from O'Reilly's when I had my Saturn.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right.
And, brakes, especially those little tiny ones, are not hard to do.
No, they're not. That's actually something I've never done. I've never needed to in a car I've had somehow.
It can be adventurous from time to time, but I've done quite a few brake jobs by this point.
Let's see. I remember you did the Buick one time, and you had a real hell of a time.
Oh, those front ones, and then the rear ones. It was like the easiest brake job I ever did. I had both of them done in less than 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Actually, that's something I noticed today. I was washing the car, spraying off the front wheels because front brakes do more work. So I was spraying off the front wheels, and there's just like brown water coming off, and the back ones are fine. I'm like, geez, I'm going through these brakes.
All the brake dust.
Yeah. Right. Like my hand didn't even get the shit. I had to hit it twice because it wasn't coming off after the first time. But
the brake dust.
Yeah.
Get a wheel brush.
I should really. Well, I'm nervous about the dip in the wheels. I don't know. I do like them black. The more I see them black, but I don't know. I might just hit up Chris and have him point me to someone who does powder coating and just have him powder coated black. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or, God, don't hate me. I'm trying not to be a ricer. What if I did like a really dark bronze because it's a black car?
See, a lot of people like bronze on black cars. I am not one of those people.
Right. No, that's fair. Doug DeMiro fucking hates black wheels.
I know. He mentioned that in his minivan review.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I don't know. He says he said makes it look like the car is floating or something.
He's like, you know that black wheels are no longer considered cool when a Kia minivan has them.
Like, I mean, that's a good point. That's fair, but that's like a $50,000 minivan, though.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the point, I guess here.
Muscle cars and brakes.
So, I think the early era of muscle is like really like the real early, like early 60s, because you started having things like the Impala SS 409
Yes.
in the early 60s.
Yes, that was one of the earliest muscle cars in quotation marks.
And it's like, I don't know, it's like with any like new thing, it's different. Like it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Well, that was quite literally it, actually, because how muscle cars came around to be was, all these car manufacturers, Pontiac, Ford, whatever, they had giant cars, but they also had smaller cars. But there was kind of like, at least with all the GM brands, there was a gentleman's agreement to not put one of the full-sized car engines into a mid-sized car because it would compete with the Corvette, and you couldn't have a car be faster than the Corvette. So Pontiac gave them the finger. They made the GTO. For the Tempest GTO, the early GTO before it was based on Le Mans. They put what the hell did they put in that GTO? They put they did the 389. That's right, the 389.
389. Let's see.
You're
What
right.
does the Muscle Car Chronicle say they put in the GTO? The first year of the GTO was the 64, right?
64, yes. Was an optional
63.
package for the mid-sized Tempest. I like those Tempests. I also like the Le Mans, but I think I like the Tempest more. And
then in 64, you had the 427 Galaxy.
Yep, which I believe Jay Leno tells a story about how his dad wanted a new car because people could buy new cars back in the day and afford them. So they went to the dealer, and his dad gave Jay the sheet to take off all the options for the car. Mm-hmm. Jay orders a Galaxy 500 with no mufflers.
And yes.
He told the story about when his dad first started the car, he thought it was broken because it had no mufflers on it.
That's awesome.
Back in the day. He's like, yeah, back then, my dad tells me stories. My dad's old, about how every 2 years he just buy a new car. And that was normal.
Yeah, that's what my grandpa was mentioning. This guy he knew with all the Pontiacs, he'd trade cars like every 6 months or a year.
Right. It's just like, could you imagine like how much money like in the modern day? Jesus.
Dude, I know. I literally cannot fathom doing that like that often. Especially for what those cars would be worth into, with today's money.
Right. Although we know a few people that are actually like that with cars. They just consistently buy garbage.
Yeah, exactly. They're all pieces of junk. But this guy, the one my grandpa was mostly referencing, his buddy, his name was Mike, actually. He started out with a
4-wheel drive. Cease.
Yep. That's what he started out with. No, it was I think it was a Grand Prix, and then he upgraded to a GTO, and then he got what was the first year of the Firebird? Was it 68 or was it 67?
Firebird was 67. Same with it came out with the Camaro.
Okay. Well, he couldn't exactly, he said it was first year, but then he said it was 68, so I'm not sure. But
Maybe
either
an option
way,
package? Yeah.
an early Firebird. That's what he upgraded. He traded in the GTO or whatever they did back then, and then ended up getting the Firebird, which had a 4-speed, which I'm sure would be a blast to drive.
So you remember what engine it had?
I don't know. I didn't ask. I was asking him this stuff, and he's like, oh, kid, you're taking me way back. Like, I'm sure he hasn't thought about this stuff in years.
You gotta get the old photo album out. You gotta get the pictures of the guy in how men used to wear short shorts and lean up against up against the cars.
Well, and my grandpa didn't really have, I think the closest thing he had to like a muscle car was he had a Dart with a 318.
Gotcha. Yeah. Same with my family. They really never had muscle cars. My aunt had a Nova with a 307, I think. And then my dad had a 76 Grand Prix. Oh, my uncle, though. My Uncle Dennis, you know him, doesn't seem like he'd be the type. He somehow ended up in, my dad doesn't remember, he ended up in a big block Torino. It was either a 390 or it may have been a Cobra, but he says he can't remember. So
No way.
I got to try to find pictures. Yeah, it may have been a Torino Cobra, but he said this thing was the fastest, second fastest car he'd ever been in. And then he said in, I think 1970 or so, one of his buddies, working in the factory full time, bought a brand new Charger with a 440, and he said that was the fastest car he'd ever been in.
I would love a Charger with a 440.
Yeah, the guy ended up taking an off ramp too fast and totaled it. But they're just normal cars back then.
Well, and you gotta wonder how many cars ended up with a similar fate because people couldn't handle the power.
Right. I mean, you know what happened with my car, I'm sure. That's the thing. These cars either are babied or daily driven by a normal person, or they're bought by someone like us and beat to hell and either kept because they like them that much, or they're wrapped around a tree.
Unfortunately.
Right.
But accurate.
Yeah.
And then now, obviously, your dad has a muscle car, which is a good point of reference for us, I guess.
He does, and that was kind of the car that actually got me into it. I've talked a little bit before. The 1969 Chevelle SS 396, original SS 396. It's a non-numbers matching car. The engine was out of, I believe, one of the Chevy pickups at the time. It's period correct, but it's not numbers matching. Let me tell you, the feeling, like, the car is slow. It makes like 500 foot-pounds of torque, but it probably makes like 280 horsepower at most.
Well, and it's funny because when you're in that car, the way the gearing is, you can totally tell what it was meant for.
Yeah, it's super close range M20 4-speed. I mean, this thing, like, off the line, it's insane. But doing 60 on the highway in fourth, it's turning $3,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and
is that a rock crusher or whatever they call them?
No, I wish it was. It's the so the Chevelle has the M20, and the rock crusher was the M22.
Oh, I see.
So, and I was like, oh, maybe the trans will go out someday, and I could put in an M22. But we had the trans not rebuilt, but my dad had the engine kind of rebuilt and touched up, and they took apart the trans to just take a look at it, and the trans apparently is perfect, which I was like slightly disappointed because I'm like, oh, maybe the trans will go and I could swap it, but the trans is really good, so that won't be anytime soon.
Well, and it's just funny, like, obviously when I drove it, I didn't drive it around. Your dad knows I drove it, right?
Yeah, I think I let him. Yeah, I told him we just kind of idled around a parking lot a little bit. He's like, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, but Michael, you can't do that, Michael.
Don't be letting other people drive the Chevelle.
But even just shifting that thing between first and second, like, granted, it's been what? Jeez, it's almost been 6 years.
It really
since that happened.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, from what I remember to like driving my car every day, it's like so different in every way.
Right. It really is. So since you've driven it, though, we've had the clutch we had the clutch spring, adjusted. And you can essentially ankle it now as opposed to before where you had to leg the entire clutch. So it's a little bit better now.
Well, and it's just funny because, like, the gears are, you got to, like, keep, like, when you're going from first to second, you got to, like, keep it against the, like, tunnel so it goes into second. Otherwise, it'll go into fourth.
Yes, right. Yeah, I did notice that, and that happened after we had the trends and everything and the engine done. It seems like everything is kind of shifted to the left, like an inch or so.
Oh, really?
Because when you look at the above the shifter, it has the shift pattern there, and where like third and fourth are, that's where first and second are on the shift pattern there. So I don't know if it's. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? 60s GM. That's maybe that's just how it was, but yeah, that thing is nice. I do not like the power steering in that car. I understood the appeal, and because when the car was new in '68, like electric power steering was like a big deal. Like you can literally turn that car with your pinky finger rounding a corner because the power steering kicks in. But on the other side of that is there's absolutely no steering feel. Like you don't get anything. There's like no steering feel whatsoever.
No, yeah. I understand that's the disadvantage there, but I love the feeling of like when I think it was right after I was done with my senior year of high school, I knew this girl, her dad, in fact, I think he still has some sort of a restoration shop in Belvedere, and I was always nagging her to drive these cars she would bring to school. She brought this, I was visiting one night, and she brought this 72, I think it was a Skylark convertible. I was like, can I drive it? And she just goes, yeah, throws me the keys, like doesn't even come with me. And dude, you're exactly right. There's no steering feel with those, but like the wheel is so thin and like, I just really like it. I understand why people don't like having steering feel, and for a car that's going to be like tracked, obviously I would want more steering feel, but I don't know. There's just something about that I think feels really neat.
Right. That's a unique feel to the time itself. And in the same vein, the brakes are manual brakes. So to stop the car, you really got to step on it, but it has front discs. Yep,
I was
front
just gonna
discs,
ask.
back drums, and they were so proud of discs in their 60s GM car that on the brake pedal is printed disc brakes.
Yeah, I remember
even though
seeing
only
that.
half of them are discs. But
now, related to the steering, that my number one, I don't know if it's my number one, but it's definitely one of my top pet peeves when people restore cars. And I kind of get why they do it, but when they replace the factory steering wheel.
yeah, no, I agree. And especially back in the day, that was very popular. Guys back then would just take the steering wheel off. But finding a car with an original wheel now, guys are buying the original wheels now to swap them back on the cars.
Well, I mean, it's every time you see a car being restored from that era, it's the same, black, fake leather wrapped, 3-spoke wheel, and like, it just looks boring. It looks like a steering wheel cover you could buy from Walmart or something.
No, I agree. I know the 3-spoke that has like, I've seen a lot of the ones that have like the holes in the spokes.
Yeah, like those.
Right. Yeah. There's a certain appeal to muscle cars because even though it's not fast, I love driving it because the amount of people that look and wave, give you a thumbs up and like snapping pictures, like you don't even have to go fast. You just cruise around town and it's like, I always joked about it with reading new car reviews, but with that, at least, it's like the experience of driving it. It's an entire experience when you take it out through like a crowded small town downtown area or something. It's just everybody's looking when you go by, and it's just a great feeling.
Oh yeah, and I mean, it's they're iconic.
Right. That's the thing. People see them. They're like, oh, yeah.
Like it's from a different time, and like
Right. You have the young people that know it's special because it's old, and you have the old people who know it's special because they used to see them every day, and now they don't.
well, and that's one thing I love, especially about the Mopars, is like, especially when you get toward the end of the '60s, some of those colors they would use.
Oh, right. And which they're coming back to, like Plum Crazy and things like that are just...
Yep. Panther Pink, Lemon Twist, or whatever it's called. You see all those at the Mopar show. And even like the little things, like, the pistol grip shifters. And one of my favorite muscle car decals, which is the Roadrunner, where I don't know if they put it on top of every engine cover, like the air filter cover. I know they did with the 383, but they put the Coyote Duster decal on there.
Right. Yes, they did.
And I love that so much. That's like one of my favorite car decals ever.
Actually, that's a good point. My uncle has I believe a 76 Roadrunner. So kind of, past their prime. But I'll have to take a look. Because, he bought that car brand new and he still has it.
I'm not sure if they were doing the Coyote Duster stuff that late.
Yeah, I don't think it really has any... I know it doesn't have the rear quarter stickers or anything like that.
By that time, you're starting to get into the cars that are like a shadow of their former selves.
Well, yeah, in name only. You start to get into that Mustang 2 and front-wheel drive Charger era.
Oh, God.
Things like that.
I mean, we could go on for hours about this stuff, like, and I mean, especially, I don't know the history of like the early 60s muscle stuff as well as I do like the later 60s, because like 69 and 70 are like the pinnacle years for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think 69 and 70 are the years for all muscle cars.
Think about all the stuff you had. You had the Boss 429, the Judge, the GSX,
The Hemi, everything. Everything had a Hemi back then.
Yeah, the W30 Oldsmobiles, the Cougar XR7s. Right. I think that's what they called them back then.
You got the Copo Chevys.
Just like all this, like, I feel like that's when the horsepower war was like at its highest.
Right. Up until now. Like, even the revival in the 80s and 90s didn't really have a horsepower war until finally now when we're in this monster horsepower war, which is so nice to see.
I think I know what your dream car is, but the 1970 GTO Judge is my number one dream car. Orbit Orange, Ram Air 4 with a 4-speed. That would be, if I could only have one car for the rest of my life, it would be that one.
Yeah, those are nice. I guess that's a good point to bring up. I'm torn between, I guess, the two that I would like, which would be a 69 Boss 429, of course, with a 4-speed. But also a 67, 68 fastback with 390 and a 4-speed. And that is entirely because of Bullet.
Yep. That's the one I knew you were going to say.
Yeah. I want that dark green. I want the Highland green. And like, I understand that people look at the 69 and 70 Mustangs and they're like, that's the one. That's a Mustang. I prefer the 68 or 67, 68 style a little bit more. I don't know why. I believe it's entirely because of Bullet, but I just think that like the rear end on those 67, 68s with like kind of like the concave rear end with the tri-bar and like,
oh yeah, and that fastback.
The real fastback with the slope that goes all the way into the back of the trunk and then has like the chrome trim around the trunk. Oh man.
You can't beat
Just
that.
looks so good. But everyone wants their
My
69
dream-
and 70. So.
Oh, I would fall into that category. My dream Mustang would be the Boss 429. I'm looking at one on my calendar right now.
All right. Yeah, the 429 is, that's a whole story in itself. Ford sent the car out to Carcraft, and they widened the shock towers, I believe, so they could fit the engine in.
Mm-hmm. Well, we saw one at, remember they had that one at World of Wheels a couple years ago? That green one?
Well, we saw that one, and then we went to that meet where, by Schwartz.
Oh, yeah. And there was that black one there.
That had, like, original vintage racing, like, tires on it, which were...
Dude, those things were massive.
Yeah, they were gigantic. And that... I don't remember. Did the guy say that was a real 429?
I can't remember. I mean, the way the thing was shoehorned in there, it sure looked like it.
Right, it was a real Boss 9 engine, but yeah, that...
I have a picture of that on my Instagram. If we end up starting that social media page, I'll have to put that on
Yes, it's a good point. Guys, if you would like us to start a Facebook or Instagram page or have any interest in any of that, let us know, because that's an idea that we have been tossing around as of an hour ago.
I think I have a picture of that green one somewhere too. If not on my phone, I'm sure it's on my computer somewhere.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what color that would be. Not jade green, jade black. So yeah, there's a similar to Mistachrome. There was a color on the 69 Fords called jade black that would turn a greenish silver in the light, and then in the darkness it would be black.
Really?
Yeah, and those are so nice.
I didn't know that existed.
Yep, Ford. I believe it's called just jade black. I forgot to get my quiet keyboard, so those are the clicky clacks. Black jade. I was close. Yep. It is a nice color. Oh, all the pictures have it looking in the sun. They're all in the sun, so it's like that bronzish green silver, but it turns black when it's in the dark.
I think we should do something here so we're not just like rambling. I think, and if anyone's listening, they can do it in the comments too. I think we should either go through like the main manufacturers of the day and say like our favorite cars that they made in that first muscle car era, or just do like our top 5 of that era, like on the fly without thinking about it too much.
Oh, man. Okay. Oh, those are both good options. Ooh. Top 5 or favorite manufacturer. Let's do top 5 because I can't think of an olds besides the 442.
Well, that might be your answer right there then. Okay, we can do top 5. You want to start with like, do you think we should order it, or do you want to just
I probably
do like...
won't be able to do an order.
Okay. That's fair enough. I probably wouldn't be either. They'd all probably be like number 1.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, I mean, I know one of mine right off the bat. It's my dream car, the 70 GTO Judge.
That's a good one.
And I have to say, like, I mean, the 71 Judges, I'm not super sold on their looks. I mean, they're okay. By the way, if you're not sure what a 70 GTO Judge looks like in the color that I want it to look like, if you've ever seen the movie Dazed and Confused, I forget the character's name. Have you ever seen Dazed and Confused, Mike?
Yeah. Didn't we watch it together? Oh, we watched Fast Times together. I have seen it, though.
Fast Times and Dirty Mary Crazy Larry,
yes.
Which is another great car chase movie.
Yes, we will talk. Yeah, movies. That'll be another topic for another day.
Oh, yeah, that's a great... I can't believe we didn't think of that.
Right.
Anyway, I can't remember this guy's name. It's the guy in Dazed and Confused, like, his parents are supposed to go out of town and they're going to have a party at his house. He's got, like, brown hair. I can't remember
Right. And he has,
I could look it up real quick, but whatever.
the
Anyway,
Judge.
that guy, his car in the movie, that orange one, that is an Orbit Orange 1970 GTO Judge. And I mean, you know, talk about a striking color. They didn't just have them in orange, you know, they had them in white. I've seen a black one. They had them in red. I think that, I don't know, there's something about the decals on the 70. They started going to like those half circle stripes instead of the one long stripe that goes along the side.
Right.
And I mean, it's just, I love everything about it. They're the coolest of cool for me. So, I mean, that's definitely in my top 5.
I agree. All right. For me, it's the front. Now, I know people are going to get on us for this. I am going to combine muscle car and pony car into one, mainly because...
Who cares? That's the same thing.
Mainly because a big block Camaro is going to outrun a big block Chevelle anyway. So, for me, I'm going to say 68 Mustang Fastback with a 390 and a 4-speed in Highland Green. That's number 1 for me. That is number 1. I will put that at number 1. Whatever comes next will not be numbered, but that is, yeah.
So basically, our dream cars are both number 1.
Right. And I think that's fair.
Which, sure, you could have guessed. That'd be a fun race if we ever get rich.
That would be close, actually. The small big block Ford versus the Judge.
Yeah, Judges are pretty big. And I don't remember. I would want the Ram Air 4. I don't quite know what the power output of that is. I don't even know what size the Ram Air 4 is. Let me look in my Muscle Car Chronicle here and see if we can find that out.
Right. Actually, see what you can find. Looks like 370 horsepower, 445 foot-pounds of torque.
Hold on one second.
Compared to the 390.
I think the Ram Air 4 was a 455. It was either a 455 or a 400.
Let's see. The car weighed 3,500 pounds. That is, yeah.
It was a 400.
400, okay. I know you can get a Ram Air 5. You had to order it through Pontiac. That's another one of those things that you couldn't get it at a dealer, but if you called Pontiac, they would sell you the kit to make your own Ram Air 5.
There we go. So the Ram Air 4 for 1970, there's a chart in here. It says it made 370 horse at 5,500 RPM and 445 torque at 3,900 RPM.
Yeah, it's about right with what I'm seeing.
It had a 4-barrel carb, and it says air conditioning was unavailable with the Ram Air 4. Interesting.
For men.
What did you say you wanted me to look up?
I can't remember now. I mean, I'm just looking at...
It was something about power or something.
Right. Oh, I wanted you to check your power, and the numbers I found matched up. But yeah, so it looks like the 390 was 335 horsepower, 427 foot-pounds. That was the one in the Mustang. And that was the 4-valve, because they actually made a 2-valve and 4-valve version of the 390. Pretty high compression, too. 10.5 to 1 in 1967. It's not bad.
That's exactly what the Ram Air 4's compression ratio was.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because mine, I don't know what your compression is. Your compression's probably, well, I don't know. With turbo cars, I don't know. Mine is low because of supercharger. Mine's only like 8.4 to 1.
Yeah, I have zero clue what mine is. So yeah, I mean, and obviously it doesn't say what the curb weight is of the 70 Judge in here, but I'm guessing it's definitely heavier than a 68 Mustang.
Yeah. Let's see. 70 GTO is 3,700 pounds. Holy balls. And the 68 Mustang is 27. It's 1,000 pounds less.
Oh my God.
It's about 1,000 pounds less.
Wow.
That okay.
Do you know what trans the 68 Mustang would have had? I'm pretty sure that I don't know the ratio, but this one it would have been a Muncie 4-speed. I know that.
Oh man, let's see. Man, yeah, I got nothing. I don't even know if they use their own trans,
Yeah,
or I know
whatever.
they didn't have a Muncie because Ford has always been skimping on the transmissions. Even now, they still skimp on them. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, whatever.
What would number 2 be for you? What do you think?
Well, I have to say, I think it would probably be I mean, not numbered here. I'd go with a Boss 429.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to do that as my second. Yeah,
That was easy.
huge engine, NASCAR racing engine, giant engine, light car, fast as balls. Made a lot more power than advertised. It was advertised at like 375, but it made actually over 500. People said like 550-ish. So that's typical. All right, number 3.
I'm gonna go with a 68 or a 69 Roadrunner.
Okay, Mopar. Yeah, I was going Mopar for mine as well.
I love those Roadrunners. I love how they look. I mean, you know, anything Mopar is
Sleek.
expensive, but I feel like Plymouth is still kind of an underdog of sorts.
Yeah, they are. They were the cheap brand. There was the cheap Chrysler.
And
back
I
then.
just, you know,
And they were up until their death.
I know that you could get them with a Hemi, but I would get it with a 383. I'd have that Coyote Duster decal on there, and I would go dust some coyotes with it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would. I don't think I'd be dusting any 5.0s with that thing.
A new 5.0, probably not. For me, it's a Hemi, but I don't know what. I love the B-body. I think the B-body is the best looking muscle car body, but man, am I impartial to a Hemi Dart. I'd say a Hemi Dart.
Ridiculously fast.
I mean, 10 seconds in the quarter with slicks from the factory. Yeah.
And I mean, look
I'll
at
do
those, you know, the super stock is a Dart, right? The one in Forza. Those
Yep.
are just so, I mean, you know,
Wheel spin in
think
fourth.
about, you know, a car company selling something off the lot that was just, I mean, I guess that's kind of what they did with the Demon, but it ain't the same as what that was.
Yeah, I mean, the Dart didn't even come with paint
Right.
on it. Because it came with unpainted fenders and a non-painted body. Because they knew guys were just going to be taking all that stuff off anyway.
You would not have that happen
Yeah.
today.
No, yeah, exactly. The last things we had that were similar at all, I can think of, are like a 95 Mustang. You could buy a GT something, I can't remember, GTC or something, but it was a Mustang GT with nothing, not a single option. And it was like, if you wanted a Mustang GT and nothing else, you got one of those and it had nothing, weighed nothing. That's the only thing I can think of in any modern era, and that was, 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, what's your number 4?
You know, the more I think about this, the more I realize how easily this could be a top 10. It's like, oh my God, the more I think about it, there's so many.
That's true. There are.
I've got, maybe we could do honorable mentions because I know what my next two are going to be. I would go 1970 again. Probably a GSX, Buick GSX.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I mean, if not that, then, the GS Stage 1, like all those, so cool. But the GSX would obviously be like the pinnacle of the GS lineup there.
I agree. I think that's a good one.
And those things made monster torque. Those had the 455, I think. So they made like 500 something foot-pounds of torque.
Yeah, like 510 or something. Okay. Let's see. For me, it's tough. Could you ever order a Camaro with a 454?
I don't know.
I don't think so. All right. I would say then besides the Chevelle, I would say a 427 Camaro. Like a 69, 7, 8, or 9, 427 Camaro SS. Mainly because it's lighter. It's lighter than all the bigger Chevys, the Chevelle, the Impala.
Right.
Also a Nova in that same vein. Also a Nova, but yeah, just a light Chevy with a big block.
Can't go wrong with any of them, I guess.
Right.
Well,
All right.
since you mentioned, well, God, there's so many again, but I think I'd have to go my number 5. Again, 1970. God, like 4 out of the 5 are from 1970. It's like the best year for cars.
It really is.
70 Chevelle 454 4-speed with the active cowl induction on the hood.
Of course.
I saw one of those in person at a meet in Belvedere, and they're tough and like, they mean business. It's got that 454. I know they're heavy. Most of the cars that I picked are not light.
They're all heavy. That's why they have 500 foot-pounds of torque.
Right. But yeah, I think that would round out. I can think of probably at least 3 honorable mentions right off the bat, but we'll wait until you tell us your number 5.
For me, number 5 would be a 68 Torino fastback with either a 428 Cobra Jet or a 429. I don't know if that was the Torino Cobra. I think that might have been later. Maybe. But yeah, I want to say a Torino fastback with a 428 Cobra Jet or a 429.
That was actually going to be my first honorable mention.
Yeah, I just love the way they look. No one talks about the Torino. Everyone talks about the Charger and the Chevelle and stuff. No one talks about the Ford muscle car, the Torino.
They're super, I mean, you still see them. I think there was one of those at World of Wheels, I want to say.
I think there was, and I think it was either 68 or 9.
And I'm pretty sure it had the 429. Maybe it had the 428.
Yeah, the 429 was most commonly found in the Torinos of any Ford.
Yeah, I mean, I would take either one, the 428 or the 429.
Right. Now, keep in mind, yeah, all these cars from the factory are running 14 second quarter miles, but with a tire, they're running low 12s.
Well, yeah, and like, we've always talked about this, like, if they would have had modern transmission technology back then, you got to wonder how fast some of these cars would actually be.
That's exactly it. Because from the factory, horrible tires, just terrible tires.
Oh, yeah, they're like dinner plates. They're so thin.
Yep. Yeah, they're thin, and then the rubber compound sucks.
Mm-hmm. But, man, so honorable mentions from that era, definitely the Torino, Cougar XR7, 70 GTO hardtop with the vacuum operated exhaust option.
Oh, right.
Which I think was on less than 200 cars, I want to say.
Yeah, like 200.
Which, if you don't know what that is, basically exhaust cutouts from the factory.
Yep, back in the olden days.
There's a video on YouTube where it shows how the cutouts work. It's actually a pretty unique system. It's not quite like your traditional exhaust cutout that you would have today. It's similar, but it's not quite the same.
Right. Yeah, vacuum operated. Different
They
time.
they called it the Humbler.
That's right. That's an interesting name.
So, I mean, one of those, I would like a W30. Was W30 a package back then?
Yeah, I think it had a different name though. It was like I can't remember what the name was. W23 or something.
No, it was a W30. I was right.
Okay.
Besides the XR7, the Cougar Eliminator, a 427 Camaro. Although I find myself being less and less of a Camaro person as time goes on. I don't know what it is. I think out of the two, I'd rather have a Nova, between a Nova and a Camaro.
Yeah, I do like the way the late 60s Novas looked. I think they're very like a baby muscle car.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, 69 Z28, an AAR CUDA, a Challenger TA, Superbird. I mean, I could just go on, really. And if you want to get into the earlier stuff, like a 62 Malibu with a, the bubble top, the 409 Malibus, like those are sweet. The old Galaxy 427s.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, there's just so many. The more I think about it, the more there are. You want to rattle off a few?
Yeah. I can really only think of one off the top of my mind right now for some reason. The Ford Fairlane Thunderbolt.
Oh, yes. Yes.
One of 64 Fairlane Thunderbolt came with the 427 top oiler, I believe, not the side oiler, top oiler. The thing was over 400 horsepower. Man, those things were insane. There were like 100 built total. And it was, it was just tiny car, giant engine, cards basically built for drag racing that you could buy at the dealer if you really wanted to. But yeah, Fairlane Thunderbolt for me.
And that was so many cars back then. Just buy it for drag racing right away.
Exactly, right. Now it's common, but back then it was a new thing. And finally, I just want to say any of the early Hemis, really, like the early Coronet Hemi.
I was just going to mention that as another one, the Coronet RT with a Hemi.
Yeah. I want to say any of those mid to early 60s Hemi, the pre-Charger, I mean, the Charger was around, but kind of like the pre-Hemi cars.
The Coronet W250, like the race-built one?
Yeah, right. Things like that. Is any of those weird cars that they just needed to put a Hemi in so the car could run in NASCAR?
And I think at the end of the day, those are almost the coolest ones. Like, the more, like the sleeper-ish ones.
Right. The ones that look like normal, small, everyday boring cars.
People talk all the time about the Mustang and the Camaro and the Charger, but, you don't hear as much about the Demon or the Fairlane or, your Impalas that had the big engines.
So even like the Torino.
Yeah.
Like earlier. Like people don't talk about them. But yeah, that's a good point. There were a lot of them. Yeah, like the original Dodge Demon. You're right.
And the Duster, yeah. Well, that was the Plymouth version, the Duster.
Right.
And that was kind of their last grasp, because I think those came out in like I don't know. I want to say 72 for some reason, but I'm not sure if that's the first year they came out or not.
Let's see, Dodge Dart Demon.
71 maybe?
Let's see, it's either 71 or 72. 71.
Okay.
It's the Dodge Dart Demon, which I think later then just became its own model? Maybe?
Yeah, I want to say, again, I want to say in 72, I don't think it was the Dart Demon. I think it was just the Demon. I think. And I don't think they made them for very long either.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Because 71 renamed Dart Demon. Let's see. Yeah, maybe by 72. Oh yeah, there was also the Dart Swinger, things like that.
Oh, yeah. There's so many good ones. I mean, we could go on for hours and hours, and like,
You really could, yeah.
it's just anyone who's local-ish to the Belvedere area and is into Mopar, if they have it this year, they didn't have it last year because of COVID, but they have a show at the Boone County Fairgrounds. It's strictly Mopar. It's usually a really good show for people that are into Mopar stuff.
Right, and those guys are taking off now. Dodge kind of rebranded themselves from the shithole rust bucket garbage cars to the Hellcat everything.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they still build shit, such as the Journey, but they're putting a Hellcat in everything, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, now they need to put one in the Dart.
Yeah. Or,
the new Dart Swinger.
oh, that would be cool. If they rebrand. Aren't they apparently coming out with a neon again?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that.
Because actually, in, I believe, Spanish markets, the Dart, the previous generation Dart, was called a neon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like you can actually, so up to like 2016 or whatever, you could buy a new Dodge Neon. Except it was a Dart, but
well, I don't know. Could be more or less shitty depending on your take.
right, it needs a turbo on an engine that's not the 1.4.
Yeah, that's what Sam's family has. It does sound cool, but I mean, I don't know. It's not like super slow, but I wouldn't say that it's super fast either.
Right, it gets the job done.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, it is a Dart.
Well, it's definitely a Dart.
The Dart is definitely a Dart, and I think that's most we can say about the Dart.
But well, I think that'll kind of wrap up the discussion on the first-ish muscle era. I mean, if we were to do a podcast about the entire era, it would be like a 5-hour podcast.
Yeah, right. We got to do a holiday special and just talk muscle cars for 5 hours because we, I mean, that's pretty much what we used to do in our apartment anyway.
Oh, yeah. I still have that poster of all the muscle cars. There was some really stupid error on that thing.
There were a few errors, actually. I remember looking through it once.
I want to say there was one with the GNX. It said it had a V8 or something.
Yeah, they had like wrong engine size, and then a few they had
I know.
wrong power figures.
Yeah, and for one of the, I think it was one of the F bodies, they said it had a 5-speed automatic. It's like, nope, that is false.
Right, yeah. It's either a 4-speed or a 6-speed, I think.
But yeah, that's pretty much what we did. And next time we'll get into, I have a soft spot for the late 70s into the 80s, like the in-betweener era of muscle. I kind of have a soft spot for it.
Yeah.
They had to be a little bit more creative. And I mean, the stuff still wasn't fast, but there were some gems from that era.
Look kind of cool, yeah. As a taster, yes. We had the SVO, which was a 4-banger. We had the Grand National, which was a V6. These are all things we're going to have to talk about. And then
you had the
go over Go on.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, go ahead.
I was say we're gonna have to talk about what qualifies a car for a muscle car again once we start getting into the 4-bangers and stuff.
You had the Omni Goes Like Hell. You had the Dodge Lil Red Express. The 83, 84 Hurst Olds with the lightning rods.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
There is definitely a lot to talk about.
Okay, I figured it out. The Camaro I talked about earlier in my top 5 would be a 69 Copo ZL1.
Oh, yes, the ZL1. I believe they made those in 70? No. Yes? I thought they made a ZL1 in 70 as well.
I can't see any mention of
Could
that.
be wrong. No, I'm thinking of the Corvette. I'm thinking of the ZR1.
Oh, right, yep. Yep,
Oh, yeah.
69 Copo ZL1 427.
Them things be sweet.
Oh, I bet they move.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, we may touch on this topic again, depending on what we realize we left out, which will probably be a lot, because this is probably the topic that we most know, I want to say. Early muscle cars in general, but especially the early ones.
That's what we spend our time oogling over and wishing that we had the money or lived in a different time period so that we could have bought them.
For $500.
Yes. If we were this age in like the early 80s.
Oh, man. Yeah, I would have a B-body Chrysler with a 440.
Oh, I didn't even tell. I was going to tell you a story that my grandpa told me. Just a little like funny story. He said that, you know, back then radar wasn't really what it used to be. So they'd kind of do, you know, they'd like stake out an area and they'd all meet at like a
Sanic.
yeah, something similar to that, like to, you know, eat or convene beforehand. And he said that one of the sheriffs would come in there and he'd be all mad. He'd be like, "I'll get you kids yet." And my grandpa's just like, he's like, "And we said, no, you won't." And he never did. I thought that was really funny.
Back in the day when you could
Back in the day.
literally outrun a cop and them just be fine.
Yeah, he told me he had a buddy that I can't remember what he had. I can't remember if it was a Cornet or it was some Mopar, but he had a 440 in it, and he outran the cops for many a time, and then he ended up getting so many tickets that my grandpa said the next time he saw it, it had a straight 6 in it.
Oh, jeez. Well, that's a punishment. Don't even take the car. Just engine swap it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that he was just like tired of getting tickets or something. The other thing that he told me was he worked with someone, and this would have probably been sometime in the late 70s to early 80s. This guy had a Chevelle, and he got his hands on an engine from a pulling tractor, like that they do tractor pulls at the county fair with, those big things.
Yeah.
So he shoehorns this thing into this Chevelle, and he said the cam was just like it sounded like the car was going to die. The cam was so lopey.
Man, I just imagine how much torque that thing made.
Oh, I can't even. He said, my grandpa said that the clutch was so heavy that the guy's wife couldn't drive it because she couldn't push the clutch.
That's one way to do that, I guess. Not have to worry.
Like, geez. I mean, I guess when you got an engine that big, making that much power and that much torque, that's the kind of clutch you'd have to run.
Yeah, that makes sense. Man.
But I love listening to my grandpa tell stories about that era because it's like, that's the kind of stuff that I wish I could be doing.
Yeah, right. No, I know what you mean.
Buying cars for cheap and, you know, being able to afford them much more easily.
Just building their engines and shit. Just
in your driveway.
Yeah, right. Pull out the engine in a weekend and rebuild it.
Yep. Got yourself a set of hand tools. You'll be able to all but do the job.
Yep, right.
Can't do that anymore.
Nope, you need specialized tools and a lift and all this and all that.
Or take data logs and send them to your tuner so he can make adjustments to the computer.
Yeah. Not like one of them carburetors.
Nope.
All right.
But at least I don't have a Nissan 240 where they have a part number for zip ties.
Oh man, that joke. Yeah, good old Strats. All right.
Good old Strats. And with that,
I think we have, to the best of our BSing, covered the first generation, first era of muscle cars. The cars that we like, what we like about them, why we like them. I think we covered that pretty well.
I agree. And we're curious to see if you, our loyal listeners, have made it this far into the podcast, which if you have, we thank you. We're curious to see what your opinions, what your takes are. What are your top 5 muscle cars from the first muscle era?
Yes. Let's see how many we have in common.
All right.
Well, I want to say thank you, everyone, for listening. And, of course, leave your comments, questions, suggestions below. I want to say thank you for everyone who's listened from the beginning. This is a new thing for us, and I think it's going all right so far. And if you have any topic ideas, of course, we're always open to that. We have a running list, and if you throw something by us that we like, we'll throw it on the list. And with that, I want to say thank you. And I've been Mike.
And I have been and will always be Alex.
All right. And thanks, everyone, for listening to Lot C2, episode number 3, I think.
Number 4.
Number 4. Why do we have it under episode 3 on the document?
Because the document's all messed up.
Okay.
We'll have to fix that later.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye.